I'm Commander Shepard, and the Unnamed Games podcast is my favorite podcast on the Citadel. Shepard out.
Hello, people of the internet, and welcome to episode 35 of the Unnamed Games podcast. I'm Craig, your usual host, and this week we've got some, pretty heavy news going on because there's been a court case going on between Epic and Apple, and it has shone a light on some really interesting things around Sony and Microsoft, so we'll be covering off that. We're going to do a few other little bits that have gone in the news. It's like I say, it's been pretty heavy, but what I'm going to do before all that is I'm going to introduce you to the rest of the panel this week. So with me, I have a Mr. Ratley Ratster. How are you, my friend?
Hello, good evening and welcome, or good afternoon, or good morning, or wherever you are. I'm good, thank you, man.
Good stuff, mate, good stuff. And I have a Mr. Phil, a Mr. Speed Freak Phil. How are you, mate?
Welcome, fellow gamers of the world, to the Unnamed Games podcast. I love the way you subtly put in there that some things had come up from the Epic versus Apple thing. What you mean is the floodgates have been opened.
Yeah.
Oh, just a bit.
There is diarrhea of the internal information style that we shouldn't have access to. It is magnificent.
I'm fairly sure you could have come up with a better analogy than that, like to kick off the podcast. It's like, people, I'll check out this Unnamed Games podcast. Get in, feels like diarrhea. Like, right, I'm out.
I thought it was going to be a gaming podcast. Clearly not.
Well, I was going down the lines of verbal diarrhea, which we all suffer from on many different occasions, and then for some reason that was stuck in my head, and that's it. I was already circling the drain. There was nothing I could do. No other word came to mind, and I'm not going to say it again.
Awesome
because
stuff.
Otherwise
cool.
I'll end up just repeating it.
Right, so the usual start. We're going to find out what everyone's been up to. Before I do that, though, just so everybody knows, I do have a portal to the Halo ring behind me. Okay, so Chief is just standing there keeping guard, making sure no gribblies come through whilst we're doing a podcast. So, cheers, Chief. Anyway, go to Phil first. What have you been up to, my man, this week?
What have I been up to? Once again, I've had a particularly busy week at work. But unlike last week, I did still have some time for gaming this week. So I have been playing Tales of Berseria, which is supposedly one of all of the Tales series are apparently amazing in terms of JRPG games. And after suffering at the hands of Returnal and dying many, many times, I need something a bit more relaxed and easier, button bashy and, nice and story driven. And from you see from the lovely video, there's lots of bright lights and button mashing and menus with things popping up after each one.
Very Final Fantasy looking. Very Final
Fantasy. It is very Final Fantasy. Well, it's very JRPG. It's just a JRPG thing. It's not a Final Fantasy thing. It's just a JRPG thing. But yeah, I mean, from some aspects, like the maps are kind of like an old school Fable game. The fighting kind of has its own little arenas and you get your scores afterwards. I don't know, it's just been quite a nice chill experience. The story's really good. I've been really enjoying following the story. It feels almost like, a really good anime series but pushed into a game. So yeah, that has been my week.
Nice. Literally, that's it. Nice. Awesome. Working and Tales of Berseria.
Yeah, I didn't turn my Xbox on for the last 7 days. In fact, I switched it on today just because I thought there'd be a load of games to update. And lo and behold, there was 20 games needed updating.
Wow.
So I turned it back off again and just left it. I was like, you can just do that in the background.
Like, if that happens to me, my internet just kind of goes,
Yeah, Phil refuses to use the instant on, don't you, mate? You won't have it. You always leave it off, completely off, and then complains every time he has to do an update.
I'll have you know, I have a degree in environmental science, and it's unenvironmentally friendly to keep my Xbox on all the time.
Yeah.
Mate,
that's the line I'm going with.
Friendly.
Yeah.
Shut up, Ratley. Don't take this from me.
And all the hot air, you blow after complaining, that's pretty environmentally unfriendly as well. I've got to update again.
Oh, fantastic.
Anyway.
Sorry,
Mr.
mate.
Chris.
Sorry.
Mr. Chris. Yeah, only messed about, Phil. Sorry. Mr. Chris, what have you been up to this week?
Oh, I have a couple of weeks off because a week off last week, so you got things. Well, first and foremost, you might notice the shiny things on my head. I received my BeoPlay Portal headset this week, and I will not say really anything at this point because we're going to do a full review. Me and Craig are going to have a sit down and a coffee and a chin wag about these compared to a few other options in the Xbox ecosystem. We're going to probably compare to the Xbox headset, official one from Microsoft, the SteelSeries 9X, and the Astro A50. Sort of in our view, 3 of the biggest of the headsets, and we'll take it to this. So keep your eyes peeled. That's coming hopefully next week to the channel. There'll be
Ratley's
some
Buyer's
some
Guide.
Yeah,
So
it'll be. Go on,
I was
go on, Phil.
instructed not to ask any questions about them because I might spoil the review. So that's why I'm sitting here stone-faced and looking miserable because I don't know if they're any good. They won't tell me.
Yeah, you got to watch your review. You got to watch your review. It's going to be a little more in depth than what we've done before. So hopefully you guys will get something out of that.
Hurry up,
Phil. Calm down. And then on the other side of things, I've been watching a few movies. Finally got around to watching the second half of Baby Driver, which is a film which I started watching with my sister, and then for some reason we only got halfway through it, turned it off, and then never finished it. And then it came onto Netflix, so I finished that off. Fantastic. Started rewatching Final Space on Netflix because why not? It's brilliant. And then I've been playing a few games here now. Lots of Outriders. Well and truly stuck into the end game Outriders. My initial frustrations have gone a little bit. They've done a lot of patches which have fixed a lot of problems. It's still not bug free, and it's still not an experience I would say is worthy of what we hoped it would be. But I'm really enjoying playing with the Pyromancer now. I've got an anomaly build. Setting stuff on fire is so much more enjoyable than dealing with buggy skills. I'm having a laugh with that. And then I today corrected what is one of my. I did not realize I didn't. This is a gaming sin I was unaware of, but today I corrected it by I finally fired up, spurred on by Craig and the FPS boost, which we'll talk about. Well, we talked about last week, you guys, so we won't really touch on. But Titanfall 2, the beautiful, wonderful Titanfall 2. I realized for all my love of the Titanfall 2 campaign, and I do love the Titanfall 2, I'd never actually finished it.
Oh man!
I was a mission from the end. And I think what probably happened was I got sidetracked into multiplayer by Chet and then sidetracked into something else by some other people. And I never finished it. So I finally today finished off Titanfall 2, fully, put the whole thing behind me, done it, and can say it's done. And do you know how good it is? Like I finished Titanfall 2 and I had to go out because I was seeing family. But the second Titanfall 2 finished, I was like, I want to play that campaign again, really. That's a bit good, isn't it? Such a great campaign. And if you haven't played Titanfall
FPS 2 campaigns ever, I think.
Yeah. The relationship with BT and you is like it's so well done, well crafted, and like I won't say spoilers, but that last couple of missions, boy, do they pull at the heartstrings on that. Like and it's so well written, great characters, really good story. I can't recommend that enough. Get on it, get Titanfall 2 on, play it. It's a great time now. You've got FPS boost on it. It works brilliant, looks fantastic.
It's up to 120 now, isn't it?
Yeah, 120 on Series X if you've got a compatible display. And you, honestly, God, it's just even if you haven't got a compatible display, this game is so good. Like, just play it. Do yourself a favor and play it. It's had a recent return to form because of some talk from EA. I don't know, but yeah, honestly, play Titanfall 2. Do yourself a favor. It's the best.
It breaks my heart that we probably won't see a Titanfall 3. Or if we do,
I'm never going to say never. Never going to say never, but that game needs to happen.
Could be a long way away. So
Apex
good.
Legends was incredibly popular, and that's set in the Titanfall universe, isn't it? I mean, who knows? We might see Titans come into Apex Legends. You might see some kind of crossover at some point.
The reason, one thing I was going to say is it's just had its best week ever on PC. Titanfall 2 has, since launch, because it went onto Steam and then it was given a free to play weekend and it went nuts on the free to play weekend. So hopefully, fingers crossed, EA are watching and listening and hearing this buzz coming out about Titanfall and going, oh, hold on, this is ours. We could make some money off of this. And fingers crossed we get Titanfall 3 because, man, Titanfall 2 is just too good. It's just too good.
I think the multiplayer just doesn't get the respect it deserves because, I mean, Call of Duty, obviously a massive multiplayer game. This is Call of Duty in space with big old robots. It's basically what it is. It's made by the people who made COD 4, isn't it?
It's and the movement system is so good in Titanfall. That smart pistol is so awesome. The smart pistol is so good. And we can go on and on and on about Titanfall 2. Let's not turn it into the Titanfall 2 podcast. But if you haven't played, it comes down. We've said this before. We'll say it again. If you haven't played Titanfall 2, play Titanfall 2. If you have to buy it, it'll cost you a few quid.
It gets a thumbs up from every one of us. I played it. I was quite a recent. I committed that sin as well, Ratley, and I didn't play it until about 6 months ago, right in the middle of lockdown. I thought. Oh, go on, I'll just give it a go. 4K 60, even then, amazing game to play.
It's just too
Such
good.
a good campaign.
I've not heard anybody who's played it and spent any time with it say, I didn't like it or it wasn't for me. Everybody likes it because the story in the campaign is good. So if you like story-driven games, you'll like that. The combat is sublime. Titans are just cool. It's just, how many boxes do you want to tick? Like,
and there is
playing
one
Titanfall
level
2.
in that game. One level. I won't spoil what that level is for
the level in
case people haven't.
the fire and the whoop, whoop, whoop,
yeah.
it's so good.
A genre bending kind of level, and it really is one of the greatest first person shooter levels ever created.
100%.
Ever
100%.
It's brilliant. It's so
And
good.
who doesn't like a fastball? That's all I'm going to say. That fastball is just like, it's just so good.
Yeah, nice.
So
cool.
good.
Cool. Well, what have I been up to? So I won't go through in a huge. I've just been doing various different bits and bobs, but I've jumped back onto my Quest 2 quite a bit recently because first off, I bought a game called Pistol Whip. Now, Pistol Whip, if you've ever played Beat Saber, it's a really good kind of descriptor, I think, because this is Beat Saber but with pistols. It is absolutely balmy.
I'm in, 100%.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. You feel like John Wick, in like the future or in some kind of like holographic dimension or something. You can have twin pistols, single pistols, and the way they've done the auto aim, you obviously have to shoot in a VR. If it's not got auto aim, you have to be incredibly precise. The way I've done with this, you can just be like bang, 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 firing the guns off, and you feel like you see in the video there, just take them all down. You feel like such a badass, and you're dodging all the bullets, and it's such a workout as well. But that is a quality game. I think it's about £15, and it's one of those. I mean, it's got a campaign that's like 5 levels long, and then it's got a load of different tracks that you play in different levels. It's not the kind of game that is going to be hundreds of hours worth of story content or anything like that. It is just to pick up and play and have a really good blast on it, which is wicked, and I've absolutely loved every minute on it so far. And then I think it was it yesterday or the day before? I think it might have been Thursday. It came out a game called Demio, which I know I've shared with you guys. If you are a fan of tabletop RPGs, I think that this game is an absolute must. Effectively, you have the board out in front of you. You can do 4-player VR, and you have your little pieces, and you have to get your way through different dungeons, collecting different cards for abilities, and you pick the dice up out of the air, you roll the dice, and you roll criticals or hits or misses, and you get through to this little chap you can see here, and you can buy different cards from him and things like that, and it is absolutely brilliant in single player. But I'm booked in with a couple of people I know to play multiplayer on Sunday with a bunch of people, and I'm really, really excited to play that. I know you guys are, you're big into your RPG side, particularly you, Chris.
Oh, mate, it's like it's one of these things. Like, there hasn't been a lot that's compelled me to VR yet, and I've got to be honest. You sent this, and I was just like, why haven't I got an Oculus?
Yeah,
it's that sad moment of like this. It just reminds me, like, it's like, imagine like VR Hero Quest almost, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I was just like, I'm just like loving the
thing with any kind of VR game that you look in a 2D screen like this, you think, oh, that looks cool, but every game you see is 3 to 4 times cooler when you're in VR, because it's 3D and you're inside it, and the depth of it and the quality. You can see there all the different people sort of like waving at each other and stuff like that. It's an absolutely cracking little game. So
I love the look of that. Genuinely love the look of that.
So and I've also been dipping into a few extra games on FPS Boost, because we've had a few extras drop, but I won't go deep into that yet, because we'll talk about that in a little while. But we're going to go over to Mr. Phil for the first bit of the news, aren't we, Phil? So
yes. It's a topic that's on everybody's mind, the forefront, the most important thing happening in May, apart from my birthday, which is the end of May. Don't
just
forget.
Slide that one in there, yeah?
Hold on, Phil, it's not as important as this. I'm sorry, mate. It's just not.
You know what? It pains me, but he's right. Mass Effect, Legendary. Wait for it. Well, it's Legend. Wait for it. Dairy Edition. Really got it wrong there. So the talk of the town is of the day one patch, because we all love a day one patch, particularly me, because I don't leave my Xbox in the always on, because I'm super environmentally conscious. So yes, I will have an 11.8 gigabyte patch to install, which is massive. Unless you play Call of Duty, when every day one patch is 50 gig, and in which case it's teeny tiny. So yeah, that's very exciting. Just in case you weren't aware, the release date is May 14th as well, so mark it in your diaries. My birthday's after that, so it's fine. You've got time to save up. Kind of the big thing about this is that day one patch for 11.8 gigs is basically bigger than the original Mass Effect game, which came in at around about the kind of 7 gigabyte mark. So that's kind of what's got everybody up in arms about it. I say up in arms, it's just day one patch. These things happen. They've got it working, and then they need to fix stuff. And it'll all be about sort of stabilizing the game, particularly for the earlier generation consoles, so your PS4 and your Xbox One. I believe you have a lovely little slide to put up in a moment, Craig, that has all the frame rates on there.
Yes, certainly do. Yeah. If you're ready to go through that bit, we'll pop that up.
I am indeed. So I wanted to pop this up. So one of the big things they've done with the patch is it's the PS4 and the Xbox One where they've basically capped them at 30 FPS in the quality mode of the game, and that is the default mode. Particularly after the debacle with Cyberpunk, they have been quite conscious in terms of the actual performance on the older generation consoles now, because there's still a lot of people out there that have got them. So yeah, bear that in mind. The other big one, the exciting one, is that the Series X is going to run at up to 120 FPS if you put it in the performance mode. And that is pretty special. You also need a pretty expensive telly if you're going to experience it.
Yeah. But there's quite a sort of a glaring sort of difference there between the Series X and the PlayStation 5, isn't there, as well?
That was going to be our next thing to point out. You've only got 60 FPS on the PS5. Which I'm kind of surprised about. So I know there is that difference in the GPU power of the two consoles, but I feel like even the PS5 is so overpowered compared to the older hardware that it should be able to, but
there's got to be some reason for it. There has to be, because it's the same as what the PlayStation 4 Pro runs at 1440p 60. So there's got to be some reason that the PlayStation 5 isn't doing it. Maybe because I remember that talk, wasn't there, that PlayStation 5 doesn't output native 1440p? Wasn't there?
Yeah, that was.
So I wonder if it's going to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't support the 1440. There was also some bits around like the way the back compat works on the PS5, where it has to basically emulate like a PS4 Pro or a PS4 as well. Okay. So maybe it's something buried into there. Like with Xbox, all the back compat, every game is like tweaked to make it work. Whereas the PS5, the way their hardware was designed, it basically runs as like an emulator, and that's how they get the back compat.
Are you thinking that technically this Mass Effect Legendary Edition is not coming out as a PS5 game? It's coming out as a PS4 game in backwards compatible?
That's kind of what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if that's where the limitation is, because Xbox kind of layered all this stuff on the top of it to improve it, like the FPS boost and all the other extras.
And smart and everything, isn't it?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I wonder whether, particularly, I know they did a lot of work on the original Mass Effect, like, changing the menus, to make them more similar to Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. They tweaked and upgraded all the gunplay to make it feel much more modern and make it a bit more engaging.
Good.
Because the old stuff was a bit dull, and they did something with the grenade because, that was useless in Mass Effect 1. Like, it was on the back button.
Yeah.
I don't. It's a menu button now. It's so confusing to have that.
They forgot about a grenade till the end. They went, we need a button for it.
Nobody uses the back button. That'll be fine. So yeah, I'm wondering whether because they're older games that they've kind of updated and added new textures. So maybe it's running in like some kind of funky back compat version on the PS5, and with the Xbox it's doing the same thing, but their systems kind of layer on top of the older games rather than being part of it.
Well, this one on the Series X actually has a enhanced for Series S and X badge, so it definitely isn't just a back compat title. It's been enhanced for Series S and X. Yeah. But like you say, who knows, mate? I don't really know. That's the difference between the way Sony are doing it and Microsoft are doing it. So you could well have a point, mate. I think that's a very good idea. Good. It's good.
It's only a theory. I guess we'll find out when the game comes out and we start to see all the teardowns of it.
Unless it is something to do with it, sort of because I know that you've got the RDNA 2 architecture on the Xbox chipsets, haven't you, on the CPUs, which you don't have on the PS5. I don't know if it's like a limitation or it's.
I wouldn't have thought that was going to.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have thought it was going to make a big difference to this game. I don't think that's really going to be. Who knows? Basically, we don't know. Digital Foundry and people like that will do wonderful technical teardowns. We'll learn from that, I'm sure. But
yeah. Funny one, really. I think just going back to the whole large day one patch thing, I think a lot of it seems to be when you look online and on Twitter and people screaming and shouting about a day one patch. I was sort of like, it's a day one patch. Most things have a day one patch, but I think people are so scared of it. There was a little release called Cyberpunk 2077 that came out with a couple of day one patches, and it was a bit of a mess, wasn't it? So I think a lot of people are quite scared that they're going to end up having this game come out and it's going to be a mess and not finished and not ready to go on day one.
I mean. It's definitely a concern. But day one patches, it's not like let's be also very fair. It's not like Cyberpunk was the first ever day one patch.
No.
You know, and that's exactly it, right? Yeah, exactly. People are feeling it at the minute, and I think there's a lot of like, I mean, even Outriders. Let's face it, that day one patch, and Outriders is a mess. So you know, there's good precedent of recent years to worry about this. I'm hoping to God that this is not another one of those, because like you guys know like how much I'm excited for this, as we all are. But like this is like. It's probably the biggest game release of the year for me. Like outside of anything else that I've seen, you know, new titles, I've not seen anything that's excited me as much as going back and reconnecting with the Normandy and the crew. So I'm excited, but
I think we'll be okay.
I think we will.
Purely on the basis that those games ran fine before they did the update. So when they were, you know, you can go back, you can play Mass Effect. It was actually Mass Effect was one of the first back compat games, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
I think it was and they got tweaked and it got the better frame rate and stuff on it. Even then, when they did the back compat on it, so they've already been working in the background, sort of integrating these older games onto the Xbox and the PlayStation.
Yeah,
so it makes me think actually we're probably going to be okay.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine. You know, I think Mass Effect's the one to worry about in this set because they've done a lot more work on it. Like whereas 2 and 3, they've openly said it's just tweaks. They've not really done anything major to it. Just new graphics, you know, a tiny tweak here and there. Whereas one needed a lot of work.
Yeah, on the odd occasion that they do put collections of games together, sometimes it does go a little bit awry when they do that. Here's looking at you, Master Chief Collection. It was a bit of a bit of a mess when it first came out, but
that's true. Yeah. Why would you say that? Now
they
I'm
stuck
concerned.
with it, didn't they? Yeah, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Absolutely fine. Cool. Next bit of news we've got something. It's a bit more of a tidbit news. There's not a huge amount about it, but it's certainly got someone in the room a little bit excited, didn't it, Chris?
Wow, you say excited. You know, you know, excited is very relevant. I nearly peed my pants when I saw it. Yeah,
the term I would use is moist. He was moist.
Yeah, half mast maybe. I don't know. Like, if I'm going to go un-PG as Phil would do. So we got.
I tip my hat to you.
We got some news from Ubisoft that we are getting another, not just one, but more Division content. We're getting another free-to-play, another Division game which will be free-to-play, and a Division mobile game, and there's a new lore book coming, and the movie is still in development to follow sometime after that. So a bit of a Division, like, there you go. Stuff. And we've also got new content for Division 2 still dropping later this year as well. So a bit exciting. The free-to-play game is being managed by Red Storm, who, if you guys are familiar with the Division, if you're not, well, let me bring it up to speed. Red Storm basically handled all the PvP interactions with the Division towards the end of the Division 1 and all of the Division 2, well, most of the Division 2. And a little while back, they updated their Twitter to have a rogue symbol. Everyone was like, "Oh, does this mean that we're going to get rogue rework or Dark Zone reworks in the Division 2?" That's not happening by the looks of things. But what is happening is Red Storm are making a Division game, which the internet is already dissecting and thinks is probably going to be some form of battle royale, which I'm interested in, because survival on Division 1 was basically a battle royale if you played it in the PvP mode, and it was sublime. It was one of the most underrated game modes I've ever played in any game. And if Red Storm can bring that kind of quality into a full free-to-play game, I'm down for it. Like the fact I haven't got to pay to play it is also fantastic. I'm in love with that. The mobile game is, as of yet, really, we don't know what's going on. But hey, cool. It's a Division mobile game. We'll see what happens. It'll probably have tons of microtransactions, be Ubisoft trying to fleece you. But you know what?
This is Ubisoft's attempt to get in their Apex Legends with their Fortnite with their shop to fleece your wallet.
Yeah, I think that the Division is a franchise which could work quite well. Like I say, I've played the combat in terms of a lot, and the PvP does split people. But I think in a battle royale format, it's a lot better. And as long as we can get away from that toxic thing, the loop the Dark Zone had, like it'll be a much more I think it'll be a PvEVP battle royale if they do one, very much akin to recently released game on Steam called Scavengers, which I've downloaded and haven't yet checked out. That sounded quite fun. So I've got a funny feeling it'll be a sort of along those lines is my gut feeling. If it is indeed a battle royale, we shall see. There's been very little thing about it, but yeah.
I can see one huge upside to them doing this, massive upside, right? If they get this right and it works, Ubisoft will get it out their system, and then they won't ruin the next Ghost Recon. And we may even get, just maybe, they'll finally give us another Splinter Cell game, and they won't then fill that with microtransactions and everything else either, because it'll all be making money off the free Division game. We can have the proper single player with co-op stuff that we want and deserve.
If it's got microtransactions and it's free to play, whilst I'm not a fan of microtransactions, if they've made it free and I'm just paying for the things like the skins and that I want, absolutely, it's way more palatable. I don't want to say it's a good thing, but it's way more palatable than, hey, we've made this full price game and we've locked all the really cool stuff you want behind tons and tons of microtransactions, which they never did with the Division, which was good. Whilst they did initially promise it would never have microtransactions, and it ended up having microtransactions, that was a long way down the line and wasn't anything but cosmetic, which don't want to defend cosmetic only microtransactions, but they're definitely the lesser of two evils there, 100%, the Division's got a good record of microtransactions, I want to say, so fingers crossed they'll at least maintain that. But we'll see. At the minute, it's so vague as to what it is and what it's going to be and what we're going to get. We don't really know, but I'm excited. More Division content got me going. I was like, huzzah, free to play. Just as a quick aside, it is looking like it will be way away from a major metropolis this time and will be in the Heartland, as the game is called. It's called Division Heartland. And that will be, so we're expecting it to be more rural, maybe Far Cry 5-ish or jungle-ish or woody.
See, it straight away popped in my head, State of Decay. I guess because there's State of Decay Heartland, isn't there? And it's very much that kind of...
but I think that's what we're going to see is more on that kind of vibe with a bit more, which is why the Battle Royale sounds more plausible, because you've got the big open spaces for sniping and things like that. So we'll see. But exciting announcement. It came completely out of nowhere. Good to see. We're still getting Division 2 content. We're getting more Division content. As a Division fan, I'm extremely happy. We'll have to see what's going. If you are interested, there is a link you can, if you Google the announcement, there is a link you can go to where you can register to play test or be in early testing for the new game. And I'm sure at that point, once everyone knows it, the truth will be out as to what the game is. Exciting stuff. So nice. Check it out if you're interested.
Just you mentioning the Division movie. I actually, when I was googling a little bit, I noticed Division movie, and I clicked on an IMDb. It's actually listed with Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Chastain attached to it, which I didn't know. And it's a Netflix movie, apparently.
It's set around the first game, so the initial outbreak in New York. We don't know much other than that, and it's also being directed by the same guy who directed Dodgeball, which I'm in.
The 5 Ds of Division.
I think we actually had this conversation offline about the 5 Ds of Division.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a Seeker mine, was the exact line. So I'm excited. It's a Division movie. It's got good names attached to it. Hopefully, Netflix are turning out a lot of content. Most of it pretty good at the minute, so we'll see. But we all know that video game tie-ins of movies are, shall we say, spotty.
The cycle will break at some point. The cycle will break.
Well, to be fair, I would say Detective Pikachu and Sonic are 2 brilliant video game movies. If you haven't seen the Sonic movie, it's fantastic, and I really, really like Detective Pikachu as well. They're both brilliant video game movies. So they have already made good video game movies. So they are out there, but
cool.
It's not the Street Fighter movie. Just like
you mean not the Super Mario Brothers movie either, from like 1989 or something like that. I mean, with the Goombas with the tiny heads, that was amazing. Obviously, if you haven't seen that, that's a watch.
That was Bob Hoskin and John Leguizamo, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was indeed.
Definitely watch that.
Yeah, it was Dennis Hopper. His keyboard was it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So bad. Oh, wow. So bad. God.
Blimey. Anyway, moving on to our next topic. We've had a big drop from Microsoft, a whole bunch more FPS boost games. So it's feeling very reminiscent of the whole back compat situation, where we're just getting these huge offloads of these upgraded games at no additional cost, which is absolutely fantastic. It actually brings the total number now up to 97 FPS boosted games on the Xbox, which is absolutely... It's absolutely insane. I mean, there's some real standout ones there as well, like all of the early Assassin's Creed games. So you like your Ezio collection and Assassin's Creed Rogue and 3 and things like that. They've all had a boost up to 60.
Nice.
Alien Isolation. Maybe I might give it a go to try and play it without crying. I don't know.
60 FPS will fix that game. Absolutely.
Yeah, make it even scarier. Wasteland 3, which is a more modern game, which actually it came out I think after the Series X. Did it come out? No, just before the Series X launched, I think.
Yes,
the August before, wasn't it? But that's quite, a recent one to have the FPS boost on, which is really good. And a big one for me, Dying Light. Dying Light is one of those games. I really enjoyed it back in the Xbox One days. I mean, that was out 2014, maybe 15, I think. And I enjoyed it, but it made me so nauseous because it had what felt like a sub 30 frames a second frame rate, and they had so much post-processing on it, with things like the trees swaying and particles flying through the air and stuff. I could only play it for a little while, and it just made me feel sick because the motion blur and everything. But I put it on this week to give it a go at 60 frames a second, and it is like playing an absolutely different game. It is so slick, it is so smooth. Don't get any of that sort of tearing and blurring that you got on the other one. It is absolutely made such a difference, and the fact that they've not changed any of the code to make such a difference to the game just absolutely blows my mind. Really does. It's absolutely fantastic. Have you guys had a chance to try anything? I know, Chris, you've done Titanfall, but not at 120.
Well, I did Titanfall, but I haven't. To be fair, I didn't try it at 120 because I don't have a 120 display.
Yeah.
What I did do, being an OG Division fan, the Division got a 60 hertz update on that, so I was like, you know what, I'll fire it up, and it now has, so the Division 1, the original one, now has 4K native, which was done via a patch by Ubisoft Massive. And then Microsoft now added auto HDR and FPS boost to it. So we've now got a 60 frames per second, 4K HDR Division 1. I swear to God, it looks like a modern game. It looks like a game I would pick up today and be like, this game looks great. It looks really good. I hate that transformative thing as we keep saying it, but it does change that game. Like, it feels current. It feels polished. It feels slick. The fact that it's 60 FPS and HDR and nobody's done anything to that game, it blows my mind. It's absolutely mind-blowing. I did try one other. I tried, I can't remember, it was one of the few where the game doesn't just do it automatically. You have to manually turn on the FPS because it drops the resolution to do it slightly. I'm not sure which one. I can't remember which one it was now. But again,
Battlefront 2 did that, I believe.
It wasn't Battlefront. What was it? I can't remember what it was.
I tried Battlefront 2.
But I played another one, and I was like very impressed. FPS boost, it's amazing. It plays brilliantly. It feels like a flawless 60, but there was a noticeable small drop in quality. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's one of these things where it's just being uber picky to complain about that. I'll take the FPS boost and the tiny drop in quality all day long. But yeah, I'm absolutely blown away by how good the Division looks. I mean, it genuinely, if you've got a Series X, like the Division's always been a pretty game. Like the recreation of New York looks great. With that HDR on and that FPS, but it's brilliant. It's just so good. It's blown my mind.
Yeah, it's staggering, really. How did you find Battlefront 2 at 120, Phil?
I'll be honest with you, I actually struggled to tell the difference a little bit. And part of me, I think part of it is because I play it with a controller, because I experimented with Battlefield 4 on my PC, trying it at 1440p 120 hertz and then 4K 60. And on Battlefield on the PC, because it's much more snappy when you're playing it with a mouse, I genuinely did feel the difference going from 60 to 120. I thought, yeah, this is smoother. It still looks good. I can aim better. When I was playing on Battlefield, because the controller has quite a limited sway movement, like the speed that you can physically take is limited by that, even turning it right up. I found there was very little difference, and you do get a bit of a resolution drop. So for me personally, I actually preferred the original iteration of Battlefront 2 with the 4K 60.
Wasn't there a lot of people that, I think there was a lot of testing done, and when you go from 30 to 60, you instantly feel the difference regardless of what you're doing. Once you get above 60, it's more about controller latency and that's so the big difference when you go to 120 is you'll notice so it's like you say, Phil, 100%, it's totally noticeable on a mouse. I noticed it playing Sea of Thieves. I've actually migrated to Sea of Thieves on PC as opposed to on Xbox, because when I am using things like the Eye of Reach in Sea of Thieves, the controls are so much more sensitive because I'm running at 140 frames per second, and the mouse is so sensitive. It makes the game so much more enjoyable. I mean, it's not fun on an Xbox. It's just more fun with a better control system, and you notice the difference when you get to that fidelity, like you say. And I can imagine fast-paced shooters would be a world of difference, truthfully.
Yeah, I think I'd quite like to try, because Master Chief Collection has 120 hertz input now, doesn't it? I think that was actually through a Series X update rather than FPS boost, but that has the option to try with mouse and keyboard. So it might be quite fun to try that with a controller, because again, try Master Chief at 120 and sort of, I could sort of feel a difference. Not massive, but actually try that out with a mouse and keyboard on an Xbox, and I think you're probably right, Phil, probably see the difference.
I think it's just the speed that you can move with the mouse. You're very snappy and flicky with the mouse, whereas with the controller, it's a much more steady. Like, even when you push the stick hard left, there's a sort of ramp up. It sort of goes a bit and then it goes faster. They have that almost that delayed movement from the stick, and I think that it smooths out the motion, and that works really well on a console, particularly at the lower frame rate, because it doesn't feel like doesn't make you feel squiffy. But yeah, that 120, it's a little bit lost on me, I think, playing with a controller.
I can see that.
Cool. Well, moving on to the next bit we've got. Now, we mentioned earlier about the whole 120 hertz versus 60 hertz on the PlayStation 5 versus the Series X. And I mentioned about that sort of 1.5 RDNA 2 chip on the PS5. But there's a bit of a rumor come out around that, hasn't there, Phil?
Yeah. So the rumor around the said rumor mill, is that Sony are moving to a 6 nanometer processing or 6 nanometer process for their CPUs. So they're going to be updating that Zen 2 CPU. It's currently on a 7 nanometer die. It's going to be on a 6 nanometer die. They're suggesting that there's going to be some obviously additional customizations around that. It is the CPU, not the graphics card. So I don't think it's going to fix that kind of RDNA 1.5. It's just going to add additional tweaks. A lot of the kind of theories around it is potentially it's going to be for the heat exhaust, like particularly the PS5 has quite an expensive cooling system. When they ramped up the clock speed on the graphics card, it was needing a better cooling system, and that was putting the price of the console up. So there are kind of questions around whether using the smaller chip will generate a little bit less heat. It's going to be more power efficient as well, which again is going to reduce that heat output as well. There's also a theory that might be the first kind of stepping stone into leading to a PS5 Pro or a PS5 Slim, maybe, because it is a bit of a chunky monkey, the old PS5 console.
Chunky monkey.
So, yeah, there's nothing specific around it. We know that they're going to go to this 6 nanometer processing architecture. They're saying it's going to be around about Q3 2022. We should expect to see these newer models start to roll off the production line. They're not doing anything physically to the look of the console, so you're not going to know whether you have a sort of Gen 2 or a Gen 1 one. But it's going to be just a kind of a transition into that. I mean, I guess when they come out, again, there'll be teardowns of the console, and we'll see what kind of additional tweaks and customizations they do with the chip, whether it's maybe they adjust the clock speed a little bit, or maybe it can run at that higher clock speed and reduce the temperatures. We don't know. But yeah, it's
so probably less of a, when I sort of had in my mind almost like a PS5 Pro sort of, or like you say, a Slim, it's more of a behind the scenes kind of change potentially, if it is indeed true. Kind of like what they did, I suppose, with the Xbox 360 back in the day, where they did a lot of changes. Well, they had to because of the red ring of death, didn't they? A lot of changes internally, and you could only ever tell it by the serial number on the back of the box. And I think the addition of an HDMI port later on, I think as well. But
I think that's exactly what we're looking at here. Is that 6 nanometer? It's probably better for power consumption, better for heat. It's just going to stabilize the performance of the console, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think I was going to say the exact same example you did, Craig. This is something that's been gone on for ages, and people will just adjust and go, well, we're just going to tweak this. It's not going to make a performance difference, because I think if they does produce any performance difference, they're going to upset a lot of people. So that isn't going to happen here. This is like you say, Phil. It'll help them keep the cooling of the console down, and it's a step towards the next step, if you know what I mean. So yeah.
I mean, there could be an aspect around cost saving. We don't know. That might be part of it as well.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it.
Cool. Right. So we're now going to move on to the real meat and gravy of this week's episode. That was your appetizer. Yeah. As I tease at the top of the show, we've had obviously the Epic v Apple court case going on. And there's been lots of tasty morsels being dropped from the dinner table for us gamers to scoff up. Num, 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 num. Lovely, lovely. We've got sort of 3 main ones that have come out that we're all going to kind of pick up. So I'm going to go first. So the first one we got from these court documents coming out is around Microsoft's review of The Last of Us 2, which is really interesting because you don't ever get to see things like this. This is a totally internal document. So it's designed to be shared between Microsoft's execs and their internal team, and not really for the digestion of the general public. So we've got a couple of sort of quotes from it. So one of them, we've got The Last of Us 2 is exceedingly rare video game where what it accomplishes in moving forward the art of narrative storytelling in video games as a medium ultimately outweighs whether or not everyone likes it, or even if it's fun playing it. That said, we loved it, had a great time playing it, and find ourselves still thinking about it and its characters and stories even after finishing the playthrough. So it's kind of like it's a bit of a backhanded compliment, going, people don't like playing it, they don't find it fun. It's good though, So it's. But I kind of understand where they're coming from, having played The Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
It's it's an immersive experience. You don't sort of come out of it going, oh, I really enjoyed that. You come out going, oh my god, that was harrowing. Like it's like watching an episode of The Walking Dead. It's intense.
I haven't finished it, to my shame, but I can tell you the bits I did play was a harrowing experience. Particularly early on, they kick you right in the heart, don't they?
Yeah.
With what happens to a certain character, and I'm not going to say
no spoilers.
No, certainly don't.
I mean, if you don't know, you have where you've been, but it's we won't spoil it ourselves. But
it's one of the. There's another one come out of there as well, which the visual quality and attention to detail in The Last of Us 2 is an absolutely best in class in basically every area, and the overall presentation is significantly ahead of anything that other teams have been producing on console and PC. And again, it's. I mean, you can see by the video we've got there. If you've not played the game, it's staggering what they've managed to do, and this is all on PS4 Pro. There's games like The Last of Us 2, and I would also say Red Dead Redemption 2 are two of the games that they still look better than anything we've got next gen yet. They're so far ahead of anything else in the way that they're designed, and it's that level of detail that they put into things. It's absolutely staggering, really. But I thought that was quite an interesting little bit, really. But because you've not played Last of Us 2, have you, Chris?
No, I mean, The Last of Us was a game I picked up when I had a PlayStation 3, and I struggled with it. It just wasn't really for me. And it's not to say it's a bad game. It's one of those games where there is an overriding feeling of quality throughout it. But like, I know that a lot of people love the characters. I just didn't connect early doors with it, and that always makes it a struggle in a character-driven game. And that, again, that's not to say they're badly written characters. I think it's just, for me, it just didn't click, and that happens sometimes. Like, there are certain movies you'll watch, and someone will tell you that they really felt for this character, and other people will be like, "No, I didn't really give two hoots." And it's exactly what happened with The Last of Us. I think I was a little burnt out on the whole post-apocalyptic thing, weirdly, at the time, and then it's come back around for me. But I think the art direction in with Naughty Dog in general is by far and away some of the best in the business, with no question. And I think they got to showcase what they wanted to do with this game. And I think what this is also a testament to, forget which platform it's on, this is a prime example of, if you let someone with a great vision make a product, you'll get a great product. If you stick your nose in and interfere and say, "Oh, we don't want it to be more arcadey and what have you," you start to water down that vision and water down that product. And The Last of Us 2 is absolutely not that. Now, not everyone agrees with that product. We know we've had this, whatever about it. And like Microsoft saying, not everyone found it fun to play. And I think there's two sides to that coin. Like you said, Craig, it's a difficult experience because of the story it tells, but also some people just didn't like it because of the story it tells, But you can't argue with the fact that as a piece of art, and this is what this is. This is all where you start to really transcend video games to art. The Last of Us 2 delivers exactly what it sets out to do, and it is a stunning thing. It's I even if it's not my game, I can look at that and go, Naughty Dog smash that, absolutely smash that. So it's good to see Microsoft being very objective about it and not just kind of wanting to pull it down. And I think it's also very encouraging to see that Microsoft are paying very close attention to how good this piece of software is, and how they need to obviously adjust their ship accordingly, shall we say.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think that the formation of the initiative is, it's a studio created to combat the likes of this game. Yeah, that's the kind of level of talent. It's that Santa Monica area, that California area where all this talent kind of comes from. But any thoughts on that, Phil?
I just kept really quiet there because I was distracted by this video that you put up of it. Yeah. And one of the things I kind of forgot about is how fluid all the motion and like when you saw her right at the start, she was running away from the enemies. She grabbed that bottle off of the side and then threw it and hit the guy in the face, and then just ran in and basically Assassin's Creed style assassinated the guy with a knife to the throat. it's all those little touches and the way, like when she ducks down and she moves and she puts her hands across the cabinet, like as she moves back, and then when she moves back, she jumps in again. It's all those subtle little things that make the characters feel alive and make you really feel for them. And that's something that a lot of games just don't get. You know, the art direction is amazing, but for me, what I love about that game is the interaction in the world. I was talking to you about Dragon Age Inquisition that you were playing last week, and it like I identified that as one of the first games where then, like, when your character's running around in the world, the way they move over the obstacles, like that, you know, if they stand on a rock, their legs will stand at a different height. Whereas a lot of games, they didn't really get that right, and it felt really unnatural, the movement. And like Last of Us 2 for me is like that next step beyond that. Like, it's not just, that bit's a little bit higher, I'll put my leg up. It's like the way they're interacting with things and moving things out of the way. Or, you know, back when the first Division came out, they pushed the car door shut. You know, that was the start of it, and this feels like that's almost like the end of that journey. But
that's one of those things with Last of Us 2, because that was one of the big things with the first Division. Everybody went mad for the car door shut, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they sort of included, but it was never as fluid as that kind of canned sort of vertical slices they did. And that's always the way with an early game. Vertical slices are very rarely exactly as they come out. It still came out great, but just not quite as good. But you watch that video from The Last of Us 2, and that is how it plays. It is exactly like that. They've achieved what so many studios create their vertical slice, say this is what we want it to look like. Last of Us 2 is goes, we've done it. We've got it to that exact thing that we want.
Well, I think it's more a case of they just didn't bother vertical slicing it. They're just like, this is the game. Deal with it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's it.
And that's I think that's, again, it comes back to that. You know, they set out with an idea. They were left alone to do that idea, and they were given all the money and resources they needed to achieve that idea, and they did it. You know, it wasn't like, can you just cut this corner? We need it out by this time. By all accounts, Sony were just like, it's ready when it's ready. You make the game you want to make. You do the things you want to do, and you get the result we get. And then they've got this result of this phenomenal product. You know, like, I know that there's going to be people who disagree that it's a phenomenal product because of the story it tells, etc. And it's a really bitter and stupid like argument. If like, you know, if you didn't like the story and therefore blah 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 blah, it's like, look, there is no denying if you hated it because of the way it told a story, it affected you in a way that has left that mark with you, and that's what they set out to do. You might not have agreed with the story they told, but who says they have to tell you a story you agree with for it to be a great story? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the Last of Us 2. From everything I've read about it, it wasn't afraid to put itself like in the middle of things that it knew people were going to hate, and I love it for that. You know, like, because one of my big gripes of a lot of storytelling in movies and games is it's predictable. It's safe. It's one of my big gripes with the MCU. Me and Craig have talked about this a lot. It's a formulaic, safe thing, and I get that works, but I'm just a little sick of it. I want some real meat and potatoes on it, you know. And The Last of Us 2, regardless of how you feel about it, did that in spades. And I love the fact that Microsoft are objective about this. I'm hoping this means we get to see a higher caliber and quality. Microsoft know what they've got to shoot for, and this is the thing. And it's good to see that acknowledged, you know.
That was going to be my exact thoughts on this. If Microsoft are holding that up as the benchmark for their new quadruple A, the initiative, like, how good is their game going to be? Like, if they're shooting for that, but with next gen tech and Unreal 5 and Microsoft's funding, that should be an amazing game. It's just they've got to get the tone right.
Yeah, I think with comparing anything to what Naughty Dog's done is, you know, Sony have done right by investment in Naughty Dog, and they've 100%. Invested heavy into them. I mean, it was from Uncharted 2 on the PS3. That was that first game when that came out. It was like, wow, the cinema. It was so cinematic. I just remember seeing that first role playing the start of that game where you wake up on the train and realise the train's hanging off a cliff and he falls down. You're climbing up the train, and it was just. I was like, I'm playing a film. This is incredible. And then, you know, that jump forward into 3, and then 4 was insane. And then, you know, The Last of Us 2. And it's been a lot of investment over a long period of time. So maybe we won't see quite that from, you know,
who knows?
Dark.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, but, you know,
I get what you're saying. Like, you can't buy that quality. You have to build that quality. And I get that. But I like the fact that they're holding that up as the yardstick, and that's what they're aiming for. That means good things in our future. Yeah, it also means I'm so glad I bought PS5, because let's be honest, you know, Naughty Dog going to be working on something else. And they've already set the bar higher. They can't drop below it, so I'm very excited for that.
It's a really exciting times gamers, just in general. Just like, you know, see the quality of this work and people acknowledging it. It's just, you know, if you're a cinematic gamer or just a gamer in general, the quality of things is only going to go up from here. You know, with companies acknowledging each other's strengths and weaknesses, it's just like it's so great. You know,
it's good. Yeah.
Well, I think just to. I was going to say, if you're out there and you're feeling sad, look to video games.
Yeah, just not The Last of Us 2 because you won't feel
It's not The
better
Last of
after
Us.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, capping off, Phil, you know, like Ratley did, he righted a wrong by not finishing off the Titanfall 2 campaign. You should really finish The Last of Us 2 as it's sitting on your PS5 ready to go. So
Oh, yeah.
make it happen, man.
I was
You won't regret
secretly hoping there'd be some amazing PS5 patch for it. I don't know what it would bring to the game. I don't know, but like I want them to do it so I can go, ooh.
It still looks better than anything else you're going to play. That's the thing.
Yeah, it looks great like that. Oh, Joe, one thing before we move on.
Yeah. Go on.
Watching that video, how brutally violent that is, right? And it's cool. That talk about the art direction. I remember a time when Microsoft was scared of the Lancer in Gears of War because it was too violent, right? And because it had a chainsaw and a gun and it cut people up. And now you watch that visceral, just nasty combat in The Last of Us and think, you know what, we finally got that past where they've, you know, a lot of people who are producing video games or in charge of spending the money go, oh, these are just for kids. We can't put this in front of kids. They're realizing that the audience isn't the kids, and it's great to see that kind of maturity and that respect for the artists to produce their work go forward. Like, yeah. So yeah, it's on a slight tangent.
Yeah,
there.
No, not at all. Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, well, with Xbox looking to kind of take inspiration from Naughty Dog creating new top-end games, let's hope that we get more inspiration with cross-play. Hey, Chris.
Oh, well, let's hope we get more of Microsoft and less of Sony in cross-play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is... so the news basically came out from filings, and we'll cover this. Basically, it was revealed... I've got my quotes here, so I just want to make sure we get this right. Basically, it was revealed that... if you remember back in the day, Sony were all about crossplay. Oh, no, wait, they weren't. They were never about crossplay. They hated it. And they came out with the wonderful line of, we don't want to open up crossplay on the PlayStation because we're worried about the children, essentially. They were like, our customers, we curate their environment. And if we let other people into that environment who haven't come from our environment, we don't know that's safe. And it's like, and at the time, literally everyone went, what a crock. Because, you're talking about Microsoft's like service where they curate it, Nintendo service, which, let's face it, is like the safe space, And it was revealed due to these things that basically what Sony were actually saying was, how do we make money off this? How does it benefit us financially? Because if it doesn't do that, we're not interested. And so it came out that basically to get crossplay launched on a lot of titles, companies have had to pay Sony for the privilege of having crossplay on their platform, which absurd and insulting. So Epic, who are obviously in the lawsuit with Apple, it was confirmed that basically Epic had to pay Sony a compensation financially if people were playing on PlayStation but buying elsewhere. So I think it works out something like this: if say PlayStation's user base contributed an X amount of percentage of the game, but they were getting less than X amount of percentage of the financials from the spend on that game, then they were obviously playing on the PlayStation, but buying their transactions elsewhere. So Sony weren't getting their cut. So you had to compensate Sony. Now for Epic, don't get me wrong, Epic aren't in any financial troubles because of this, because Epic aren't exactly poor. But it was a bit like, hold on, you're telling me that someone like Epic has to do this. What about a small dev, etc.? But anyway, basically, Tim Sweeney has confirmed that the only platform holder that requires Epic to pay any compensation for crossplay is Sony. Epic had agreed to pay additional fees to enable crossplay in Fortnite, and in certain circumstances, Epic will have to pay additional revenue to Sony, said Sweeney. If somebody were primarily playing on PlayStation but paying on iPhone, then this might trigger compensation. Essentially, they're saying, we want all the money from everyone because we're Sony. And it's so unbelievably two-faced, that for the players. Remember that was because this is when it was all for the players, and then on the other hand, it was for the money. We don't really care about the players.
What it is.
Yeah, it's horrible, and it's a really, really naff experience. And I was angry reading it, because it's like they get so much praise, and they do so much stuff right, and then it's just how dare they say for the players when they keep doing this kind of stuff to slow down players? And it's like, I saw several people talk about it. It's like, it's all well and good if, let's just say you decided at the beginning of a generation you're going to buy into Xbox, and your mates bought PlayStations, and then Fortnite comes along, and you're thinking, we can all team up again and play this. And Sony stand in the way and go, well, you want to buy a PlayStation, don't you, mate? It's like, well, what if I can't buy a PlayStation for financial reasons or whatever? You know, you're taking this experience away. Plus, you know, cross-play is only going to make player bases bigger, and it's going to make games last longer and be more enjoyable. And for the players, yeah, come on, Sony. If you're going to say it, do it. Don't just put that as a slogan and think that'll sell us consoles. If that is going to be your mantra and you're going to be all about for the players, then be for the players. Don't be for the players as long as they're making us boatloads of cash. Yes, I know it's a business, and yes, I know that it's about making money, but you're treating your customers like dollar signs, not like people, and that will hurt you eventually. It's not going to do it immediately because, let's face it, as we just talked about, one of the greatest console generation exclusives ever. You know, Sony have had a killer time with software and things, but eventually that's going to bite you in the backside because, you know, people will just get sick of it. You know, they just get sick of it and go, well, I cross-play games I can play elsewhere. I'll go elsewhere.
Maybe Sony have just got they're so... It's a completely different business model to because we're obviously going to compare Xbox and Sony together. You know, Sony's main revenue stream is PlayStation. That's where all their money comes from. So they're trying to maximize what they can out of it. Whereas Xbox are in a better position to be able to be more consumer friendly to play the long game and grow their brand, aren't they? Because they don't have to worry about every penny and every pound.
I mean, I think it's that thing where, like, diversity in your portfolio, and Microsoft being such a rich company definitely, like you say, helps. But I just think that there's also just, if you look at the way that we've talked about this before in the podcast, the way like Phil Spencer, for example, talks about their customers. And I know he's corporate, and I know they're very smart, and they're not going to say like, you know, things that are, but we've talked about this as well. Phil Spencer's a gamer. He always has been. Yes, he's a director or whatever, you know, but yeah, he gets what gamers want more than things. And this is only been shown throughout the last however many years when he's been in charge of Xbox. The difference between Xbox now and at the beginning of the Xbox One era is just a transformative brand. It's a transformative company. You know, like that launch as an Xbox gamer was painful. I mean, I know we've all been down and talked about this before, but I loved the Xbox One, but it was massively flawed, and there were huge problems with the way they were talking about it and the offering, etc. And like, yeah, whenever I hear something coming out of Xbox now, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. You know, whether it be giving me more options like high quality audio, like these portals, or whether it be, you know, the option to play with on a different device or whatever. It's really about like, we want you to play games, more games, wherever you want to play them, however you want to play them, whatever you want to do with it. And they talk about for the players, and this really is the kind of things that as players we want. You know, we want the ability to move our games around, do this sort of stuff, and we don't want to be have to be thinking about, oh, you know, is my mate going to buy a PlayStation or an Xbox? It's like, we're playing Fortnite together. Cool. Let's keep playing Fortnite together. We're playing COD together. Let's just keep playing COD together, and you can buy whichever one you want. This is what we all want as players. We want to be able to play with the people we want, regardless of platform.
I think it boils down to Microsoft being a software company and PlayStation effectively are a hardware company. You know, they produce the consoles, they produce TVs, they used to produce laptops back in the day. You know, they're very much a physical product company, and that's where their money comes in from. Obviously, you know, they have the studios for the games, but they're like a hardware company. Whereas Microsoft, you know, they make money from Windows, they make money from, you know, Microsoft Office, they make money from Xbox Game Pass. You know, it's all that their approach to making money is a non-physical product. You know, like almost they produce a console as a way to access their product that makes the money. In the case of your headphones, you know, they produce a product to make your experience with their console better so that you're going to buy more of their software. You know, it's all about that. And effectively with Microsoft as well, it's, you know, Windows PC is, you know, it's their thing. You know, that is technically their brand as well. So actually, if you're cross-playing between an Xbox and a PC, you're not really cross-playing between an Xbox and a PC because it's still just Microsoft's ecosystem, isn't it?
Well, you've actually just segued yourself into a very interesting point there, Phil. Yeah, he set himself up, so take it away, my man.
Beautifully
done, Phil. Beautifully done, mate. Beautifully done. I got to give you some credit.
I know, and I thought that would spin nicely into this. You know, this is a nicer thing that's come out of the kind of Apple versus Epic thing. I think it's a really interesting thing to see. So, basically, one of the documents came out was about what kind of money the manufacturers make on the consoles. In particular, Microsoft, as it turns out, have been making a loss on their Xbox consoles for the last 20 years. And I shall quote this exactly, as Craig provided me with a lovely quote when he did a little bit of research on this. So basically, the vice president, Laurie Wright, was brought in as a third party witness between the Epic versus Apple trial. And Epic's lawyer basically asked Wright, how much margin does Microsoft earn when selling an Xbox console? To which Wright responded, we don't. We sell the consoles at a loss. So for 20 years, since the original Xbox, Microsoft have been selling us a console to get us to buy into their ecosystem so that we buy their software. They've been losing money on it. That's interesting.
It's a long game, isn't it?
Is what that was.
That is the long game. And a lot of us think, as they do these console revisions, like I was talking about the PlayStation changing the chip and stuff. You think, as manufacturing becomes a more standardized process, and they optimize it, the cost to produce the product is coming down. But actually, you know what? We've seen actually is the falling price in consoles. Right at the end of the PS4 and Xbox sort of era, I think you were buying an Xbox One S for about £179, wasn't it?
Like that, yeah.
And launch was like $279 on those. So actually, even though it gets cheaper, Microsoft just sell it cheaper and they still lose money on it.
Yeah,
which is just crazy to me.
But it goes full circle around to what you said before, isn't it? That's not where they make their money. They make their money through software, through services, through Xbox Live, through obviously Office and Windows and things. That's not really gaming relevant, but that's still where they make their money.
How they make their money.
Yeah,
how they make their money.
Yeah.
Game Pass. Game Pass is, you can see why Game Pass is so vital to their strategy when you see they're not making any money off Xboxes. But I also think, this whole vision of their business model, when people keep saying about who's winning the war and Sony have sold way more consoles than Microsoft. Microsoft's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, everyone of them we sell, we lose money. So cool, they can sell more of the loss leading boxes. We don't care. We'll just sell more Game Pass subscriptions and make more money.
Yeah.
So it does totally change your way of thinking when you look at it like that. It's staggering to think they've never made money on Xbox. It's just that blew my mind to say that they've never made money on Xbox. I was like, but yeah, it's crazy.
Does it kind of make you think that Xbox and PlayStation aren't playing the same game though?
Yeah,
they might be on the same court, but they're not playing the same game.
They are very different beasts as companies, aren't they?
Yeah.
There was actually something I didn't write down, but I'd read somewhere, and now I don't know if this was a rumor I read or if there's another thing coming out of here. But there was something written somewhere. I believe it was a tweet from someone about, because we did the whole thing last week around the Microsoft Store reducing their share, didn't they? In terms of the money that they take from the developers when they sell. There's rumours going around that they're going to be doing that on the Xbox Store as well. I don't know. Did anyone
Microsoft shot that down.
Yeah,
Microsoft shot that down in flames.
Right.
Yeah,
I think so. Please
go on, Phil. You go, mate. You go.
No, you carry on. But I was going to say, that's exactly the same thing I'd read. So I'll let you.
They shot it down in flames. Basically, they essentially said because the whole business model of Xbox is different to the business model of PC. There are currently no plans to reduce the cost involved in Xbox, and I think that makes sense when you think about it. If we now discover that Xbox basically don't make any money from Xboxes, then their real money is subscriptions and software. And if they're getting 30% of the cut from software sales, are they going to really strip their margins back that far? Whereas on a PC, let's face it, if you're playing on a PC, you should have a Windows license.
They've already got your monies.
Yeah, you may not have a Windows license. You might be hooky, but majority of people have a legit Windows license. You're probably, everything they do is facilitating that. Your users probably using one or two more of their services, etc., etc. So there's they've already, and they don't have to. Let's face it, if you buy a Windows license, Microsoft are making a lot of money off that. It's because it's software. It's after development costs, it's all money. You're just printing, money with it essentially. So, I think they did say there's a fundamental difference in the way the two stores operate. So they weren't planning on doing it. I mean, we might see. I think they, like all corporations, they say we're never doing it. I wouldn't be surprised if they drop it a little bit. Maybe to 25 or what have you, but they won't chop it down to 12 like they did with the PC store. It just doesn't make any financials for them, especially after seeing how Xbox is entirely a loss leader.
Yeah. That was kind of where I was going with that. There's surely that can't be true if they're now telling us they're not making any money on the console.
Yeah, no, I did see them shoot that down in flames quite quickly.
Good stuff. Cool. Yeah, it sounds a bit of a Chinese whispers going on. Sorry, Phil.
Yeah, I was going to say, so this is our last bit of the segment, I believe, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And you haven't prepared a quiz, I believe?
I have not, no.
I have a little higher or lower competition for you then.
Oh, have you?
Yes.
Right.
I thought I'd
that
save
one
this
in.
just for the end because it lines up perfectly with this. So, do you know what? I'm going to go with closest to just for a bit of fun, okay?
Go on then.
So, how much do you think a PlayStation 3 cost to build when it was launched? Craig, go first.
What, in pounds or dollars?
Dollars, please. Sorry, I should have said dollars.
How much was it retail in dollars? Can we get that?
I know.
And which PlayStation 2? Because there's like 26 different SKUs.
No.
wasn't
The
there?
PlayStation 3, the launch model, the very first one. So the 60 gig with the Blu-ray drive.
60 gig one, right? Okay, yeah, okay.
I'm going to say $600.
Okay, Ratley?
Didn't it retail at $600? Something stupid like I can't remember now.
Yeah, it did. It did. It was. It launched at $699, I think. Actually, believe it or not.
Yeah, because it was stupidly expensive. I remember that.
Take a stab in the dark. It's all good.
Well, they had a bit of a thing, didn't they, at E3, where it was like, yeah, we can just get a second job. And that went round really well. Yeah.
Oh, yes, it did. Yeah. It's a magnificent bit of marketing by Sony.
That's one of those great moments. Like, we have a console for people that can't get online. It's called Xbox 360. It's like,
Yeah.
both of those
Slow
marketing
clap.
genius moves.
Yeah.
I reckon $750.
$840.
Holy moly.
And that is why they wanted you to get a second job. So Xbox One with a Kinect. How much do you think it cost?
Do you want to go first this time, Chris?
Go on, Ratley.
So it was what, $500 at launch, wasn't it? Let's go $700 at launch for the produced.
I'm going to say 600.
Believe it or not, 471 was the number I found on that one.
Okay.
And that was including the Kinect as well. So the actual console was around about $400. Okay.
So, yeah, it's kind of thinking about it because the PS3, the reason that was so expensive is because it was proprietary technology, wasn't it? The cell,
the cell
architecture.
processor,
They made the whole thing.
Blu-ray drive.
Well, don't know that, but they
Cell
also
processor,
put,
the
didn't they
Blu-ray
put in the early ones, the first ones, they put a PlayStation 2 inside the PlayStation 3 because it didn't emulate. It just went, here's a PlayStation 2 to play PlayStation 2 games. Which is,
And
I mean, that's one way to deal with
the
backwards
card,
compatibility, isn't it?
had the card readers in there as well, didn't it? The
readers.
SD card readers too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so PlayStation 4. How much do you think one of those bad boys, launch PlayStation 4, cost them to make?
I'm going to say 370 quid.
$370?
Dollars, sorry.
$450.
$391. Ooh. Not bad. And I've got one more for you. So Xbox One S, so an iteration on the original Xbox One. How much do you think that ended up costing Microsoft to make after their hardware revisions into that?
Go, Chris.
So the One S. So I remember getting one of them when they launched brand new because of the Gears of War.
So they were
Gears of War 4 was there.
Yeah, they were $279, I believe, when they launched.
Yeah, my Gears 4 one was
the 1 terabyte.
About that, yeah.
No, the launch one was a 500 gig, wasn't it?
Not the S, not the One S.
Not the
One
S.
S was
wasn't it?
Yeah, the S came along as a 1 terabyte. I remember that because the Gears 4 one was one of the first ones. They launched it with a custom Gears 4 one and something else, a standard one. Let's say $300.
Yeah, Craig?
$301.
Dirty.
Cheeky.
I think you're not keeping count, aren't you? Really?
No.
It's just for fun.
$324 was the actual build cost of that.
Filth.
I did.
There's a low tactic.
Yeah, I did try and look up like PS5 and Xbox Series X, but they're all kind of guesstimations on those, so it didn't seem any fun to play with those because I could only get a range on them. But yeah, obviously those consoles have been around a while, so they've had teardowns and cost price analysis done on them over the years. But I just thought that was an interesting little bit on there. Just
how much did it cost Microsoft to fix all the problems with the Xbox 360 they generated by not researching the product properly?
Oh, I heard this.
Doesn't matter; they lose money.
Yeah, this was an interview with was it Peter Moore running it at the time?
Yeah.
Who went? No, it wasn't Peter. It was somebody.
Peter Moore.
Yeah,
Peter Moore went to see Steve Ballmer.
Yeah, that's it. And saying, and I think it was something like 2 billion, wasn't it? They needed to like rectify the issue or something like that. They were like, yeah,
it's going to cost us this much money, yeah. And he's like, yeah, do it.
It's ridiculous amount of money. But I've just had a quick look, because I think you're getting confused because you bought the special edition Gears one. The special editions were the 1 terabytes, but the standard Xbox One S was a 500 gig. I knew because one of the boys has got a 500 gig one. I'm sure they did. Yeah, I've just checked it online. Yeah, I just wondered if I was going mad then. But yeah.
well, it's not my fault. What a flashy one. Yeah, all right, I'm a show off. I get it.
The price I quoted was whatever the cheapest iteration was because they weren't on the minimum cost of manufacture.
That limited edition Gears console, the Gears 4 one, the blood red one with the scratch on it. That was the first like limited Xbox One console, which really blew my mind. They started to take that limited edition thing and take it more seriously. Like we had the laser etched scratches on it. Had the custom sound effects when you open the drawer, like the old Xbox 360s did. Thing was mega. Absolutely love that. My Kev still got it. I've still got my Gears 5 Xbox One X actually, and I love that thing as well.
The first one that I saw came out that I really loved was the Xbox 360S, the Star Wars one with the it was R2D2 with the C3PO Connect.
Yeah,
do you remember that one?
Oh, yes. Yeah. The Connect was still R2D2. It's the controllers that were C3PO. The controllers were gold. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, right. Okay,
well,
yeah.
I just bought the Gears of War 3 Xbox 360, the black and the red, and then they announced the Star Wars one shortly afterwards. I was like, I really can't justify another limited edition Xbox 360 at this point.
Was the Gears of War one? Did that have like the Omen skull but raised up out the side of it? Because I remember seeing something like that.
No, that was a case. You could buy this console crate, or no, console vault. Sorry, they called them, which was like that. But the actual limit console was just red with like the sort of infected Omen from Gears of War 3 spreading out across it, and the controllers matched it. And then the Gears of War 4 one had the etching into the console and was like 2 shades of red. And then the Gears 5 one is white. It's really cool actually, the Gears 5 one, because on one side of it you've got like a gold locust symbol with like snow covering it, while on the main side of it, the top of the console, there is like the Gears Omen frozen in ice in like a kind of a 3D effect in resin. It's really cool. Then all the cracks are like etched into the console moving out. Really pretty console. Yeah, I'm very reluctant to part with it. It's so pretty. Oh, hold on, Craig's found something. There you go.
That was
Did you know on this one, really cool touches, right? So if you open the drawer on that 360, on the side of the drawer, on the inside, it actually says, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope."
Really? That's
totally,
cool.
mate.
Wow.
And it makes R2D2 noises whenever you push any of the buttons. It's phenomenal. It's one of those limited edition Xboxes I wish I'd got. My Gears one I love, but like there was a point where I just wanted to go buy up all the old Xbox 360 limited edition ones because they're such cool consoles. Yeah, they really got into that customized console thing, and they definitely did a good job of that. Like they're really good. Craig's hunting down all these limited edition consoles.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Xbox 360 Gears one, was it, you said?
Gears 3 it was. Gears of War 3.
Is that this one? Hold on a second. Let's just show it up. Again, this isn't great for people who are watching, listening, but yeah. Is that the one?
That's the one. I've got one of them sitting upstairs still to this day. I still own my Gears 360 one. Love that console. Yeah.
Great stuff. Cool. Right.
Yes.
Well, it's actually a slightly shorter episode than we normally would have done because we thought all of that information was going to take hours and hours to go through. So that's why we didn't prepare a quiz. So thank you, Phil, for that little...
Hold on. Does this mean it's Alan's fault that we talk too much? Is it Alan that causes us to talk too much? There you go. See, problem solved.
That's
what
it is.
Don't ban Alan.
We love you, Alan.
Yeah, we love Alan. Quite the X-Files, but the truth is out there.
Yeah.
We can never take it back now.
And this is just like, and I'm not trying to suck up to Alan after saying that, but can you imagine this podcast is about Alan's rapier, dry wit that he has sometimes? I would miss that. So, in fact, I did miss that when he wasn't here for an extended time. It would just not be the same without that. That beautiful, dry moment. It would just come in and just cut you down. It's like, that hurt Alan, but it was good, man. It was good.
I just leave feeling like I'm a pincushion after he's been on there. Yeah, I'm just like, oh god, that was painful again.
He's so good. So it brings such taste to the podcast.
Yeah, cool. Right. Well, I'll leave that with it's a bye from me, and it's a bye from Chris.
Bye.
And it's a bye from Phil.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.